There are spots on a man's body that when touched the right way don't just turn him on. They unlock something deeper. It's not only about lust, it's about feeling wanted, chosen, and truly seen. Most women never learn these spots, but the ones who do leave a lasting impression that no one else can erase. This isn't about tricks or games. It's about a kind of closeness that goes beyond just the body. If you want to touch his body in a way that connects with his soul, this video will show you 5 spots he secretly loves to be touched during sex, plus a powerful bonus that will change how he sees you forever. There's something deeply ancient and symbolically strong about the back of a man's neck. This area has stayed protected throughout human history. From the earliest days of humankind to now, it has always stood for vulnerability. It's the spot where danger could strike. It's what a fighter guards, and it's one of the few places even the most confident and tough men rarely let others touch unless they trust them. That's why it holds so much power during sex. When your hands gently move to the back of his neck, not quickly or forcefully but with soft, slow care, you skip over ego and lust and reach something deeper. You're telling his body without words, you are safe here. He may not even realize why it hits him so strongly, but his body knows. His body remembers that this kind of touch is special, something only someone truly close can give. This isn't the touch of a short fling or a careless moment. This is the touch of someone who knows how to ground him while still exciting him. And that mix, that's what men want but rarely get. When your fingers rest lightly at the base of his head or trace along the top of his spine, it sends more than just a shiver, it brings a sense of calm. He stops overthinking, his muscles relax, and even if he's still trying to stay in control, that control is already slipping away. That's the twist here. The more dominant or guarded the man, the more powerful this touch becomes. It builds a balance. He's strong, but you gently break through that strength. He leads, but you guide the emotional flow. And your touch doesn't demand or shout, it invites. You're not just saying, I want you. You're saying, I want the parts of you you usually hide. That makes him feel deeply seen. There's a reason animals nuzzle each other's necks when they bond. It's instinctive, it comes from somewhere primal. And men, no matter how grown or logical they may be, never stop responding to that kind of deep trust. The back of his neck is also a pressure point, closely connected to his spine, where stress and strain gather. A man might carry weight through life, pressures you may never fully know, responsibilities, failures, silent fears. Even during sex, when he's physically bare, he might still wear emotional armor. But when your hands gently find that soft space behind his head, you're not just peeling off his clothes. You're gently removing his defenses. You're not simply touching skin. You're reaching the spot he rarely lets anyone reach. Not because he doesn't want to, but because it almost never feels safe. And when it does feel safe, that's when things shift. That's when he begins to soften in ways he didn't know were possible. That's when he lets his movements be led by feelings instead of just habit. That's when sex turns from something done to something felt. Your hand there becomes an anchor, a thread pulling him from thoughts into presence. And he won't even be able to explain why it means so much. He may just close his eyes longer. His breathing may grow deeper. The way he touches you may change, from urgent to almost sacred. And even long after it's over, long after the room is quiet and the moment has passed, it's your hand on his neck he'll remember. Because that touch reminded him of something he didn't know he needed. A moment where he didn't have to be anything but real. The magic of this touch is in its quiet strength. It doesn't cry out for attention, but it creates deep emotion. It doesn't take away from pleasure, it heightens it. Because men aren't machines. They don't just want action, they crave feeling. And this part of his body, so soft, so rarely touched, becomes the way in. When you touch the back of his neck, especially during moments of closeness or climax, You mark the moment with emotion. You make it unforgettable. It's not just sex anymore. It's a full reset of how he experiences being wanted. And no man forgets that. Touching him there says, I see your strength, but you don't have to hold it with me. It says, you can relax, you can feel. And that's what makes it so powerful. Most women go for what's obvious, but the one who dares to touch the spots his instincts say, guard this, she's the one who reaches past his body and into his emotions. She becomes a part of his memory, not because she pushed hard, but because she was gentle when no one else thought to be. That's where the real magic is. It's not about techniques. It's not even about sex. It's about the message your touch sends. You can be yourself here. And when he feels that, when that wall drops, when he lets you in fully, that's when he realizes this woman isn't like the others. She doesn't just understand what I want, she sees what I truly need. And that changes everything. Now let's talk about the inner thighs. Another area people often ignore but is incredibly powerful. This space isn't just physically sensitive. It holds deep anticipation, tension, and the silent request to be unraveled. What makes it special is how it reacts to touch, not just with physical pleasure, but with emotional electricity. Here's something most people don't say. True closeness doesn't come from rushing toward orgasm. It comes from stretching out the experience. It comes from building that heat, not by holding back, but by making every second matter. And touching the inner thighs the right way does just that. It builds a kind of emotional energy that sparks through the skin. When a woman touches a man's inner thighs, not quickly, not like a path to somewhere else, but with focus, it sends a message much deeper than desire. It says, I'm not hurrying, I'm enjoying you. And that, for a man, is unforgettable. Many men are taught to believe they're only here to perform, to be fast, strong, and pleasing. But what happens when you flip that idea? What happens when you slow down your hands, keep eye contact, and explore that space just near his most vulnerable spot, but without going straight to it? The control, that patience, that ease, it makes him feel wild with need. But it also makes him feel seen, because at that moment he realizes you're not here for his body, you're here for all of him. The inner thighs are full of nerve endings, but what makes the touch powerful isn't just how hard you press, it's the meaning behind it. When you touch him there, especially in the middle of passion, you turn on all his senses. His breathing changes, his thoughts quiet. His focus narrows to just you, and this works because the thighs are right next to his most sensitive areas, but they're not those areas. That means this isn't about giving him pleasure right away. It's about building the weight. It's about mastering the T's, and the weight, that's where emotional memory lives. The body forgets quick pleasure, but it remembers the ache before it. It remembers the tension, the slow rise that made the final release feel unforgettable. Your hands on his inner thighs create that kind of memory. But even deeper than nerve endings and pleasure, there's something else happening. His thighs are where he holds stress. When he's worried or anxious, it collects there. So when you touch him there, you're not just teasing, you're sensing, you're saying with your hands, I feel what you're holding. Let me help you let go. That turns sex into something deeper. It's not about what you do, it's about how you do it. And for a man, especially one used to always giving, it becomes rare and addictive to be held that way. There's also strength in silence. Imagine not saying anything. Just your fingers slowly tracing along his inner thigh, barely touching, making him feel every space between what is and what he wants. He'll try to stay still, try to breathe normally, but inside he's melting. And that's not just control, it's deep connection. You're not playing with him, you're guiding him. You're leading him into feeling, into presence, into release. And when a man lets go, when he finally drops his guard, it's more than just pleasure. it's transformation. And this isn't weakness, it's the opposite. When your touch brings his inner thighs to life, you're also waking up a part of him that rarely gets seen, the part that wants to be touched with care. And care, that's rare. It's not about worship, it's about being present. When you take your time and let your hands stay there, when you touch him like he's worth every second, he doesn't just feel wanted, he feels valuable. And that, more than any tip or trick, is what ties a man's desire to one woman. It's not what she did, it's how she made him feel while doing it. Touching his inner thighs builds a different kind of closeness. In that moment, he understands something huge. You're not scared of his desire, you're not trying to hurry through it, you're leading it. And that kind of leadership in intimacy, that's not about control, it's about trust. It says, the power of touching his chest also comes from your intention. There's a big difference between casually placing a hand on someone's body and truly offering your presence through touch. When your hand rests over his heart with quiet care, no words, no pressure, just being there, you create something rare, safety. And safety is what helps a man open, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually. That's the part most people miss. They skip past the heart and go straight to passion. But a man touched at the heart first becomes a man who feels that passion with all of himself. And that kind of deep feeling, that's what makes a moment unforgettable. When your hand is on his heart, something happens. You pull him out of his head. Most men are taught to think through everything, even sex. They plan, anticipate, figure out how to perform or impress. But your warm, steady touch on his heart bypasses all of that. It goes straight to his soul. It says he doesn't need to do anything. He doesn't need to be perfect. He doesn't even need to focus on pleasing you right now. He just has to be here, with you, as he is. And for a man who rarely gets to let his guard down, that moment is deeply erotic in a way that goes far beyond the physical. This kind of touch also sparks something protective in him, not because you're making him feel needed, but because you're showing him he's valued. When a man feels that his heart is being honored, not just touched, something wakes up in him. It's strong, but soft. He doesn't just want to have sex with you. He wants to protect what you've created together. He wants to take care of the connection, because with that small, simple touch, you've told him, you're not just any man, you're my man, and I see your heart. That recognition stays with him long after the moment ends. There's also something special that happens between your energies. When your hand is over his heart, especially during sex, your body begins to sync with his. Your breathing lines up, your emotions connect. You stop being two bodies and become one shared presence. This isn't just poetic, it's real. The heart actually gives off an energy field, and when you touch it with intention, your emotional energy starts to match his. That's why it feels so strong. That's why he remembers it, even when he can't explain why. His body marks it as home, as trust, as intimacy worth remembering. Don't ignore how vulnerable that moment makes him. A man who lets you touch his heart during sex is letting you into the core of who he is. He might not say that out loud. He might not even realize it fully. But in that moment, you've reached the part of him he usually protects, even from himself. That's not a small thing. That's sacred. And here's the truth. While society often tells men to chase physical pleasure, what really stays with them, what truly connects them, is emotional recognition in the middle of those physical moments. Your touch, if it's grounded in presence, can give him a kind of pleasure he's never known before. The pleasure of feeling fully seen while being fully vulnerable. That's not just sex, that's emotional connection. And it runs deeper than any move or noise or position. It becomes a memory, a mark, a spiritual fingerprint that stays on his heart long after your body is no longer next to his. So yes, touch his chest, but don't do it as a routine. Don't copy something from a tip sheet. Do it with meaning. Let it say, I see the part of you you hide. I want the real you, not just what you offer. And when he feels that, when he truly feels it, you become more than a partner. You become the one who touched him in a place he never expected, the part of him that holds everything. Now let's talk about another powerful space, the area behind a man's ears and along his jawline. This is a quiet zone where nerves, instinct, and emotion meet. It's a part of him most men don't even realize is sensitive, until the right person touches it. And when you do, it doesn't just feel nice, it undoes him. Because these aren't just physical zones, they mean more. The jawline is where he holds pressure, pride, strength, the image he shows the world. And behind the ears, that's where vulnerability hides quietly. Together they create a hidden path to his emotional side, masked by skin. The jaw is one of the first places a man tenses when he needs to be strong. It's where he holds in frustration, stress, and emotion. It's part of the mask he wears. But when your hand touches it, not hard, not fast, but with softness and care, you send a different message. One he may not even realize he's needed. You don't have to hold it all in with me. And that message doesn't land in his thoughts. It lands in his breath, in the way his body slowly releases, in the soft sigh of a man who realizes, maybe for the first time, that he doesn't need to pretend. That's why this touch is about more than just turning him on. It reaches the part of him he hides. It gives him permission to be open. And here's the beautiful twist. This kind of touch doesn't take away his masculinity, it honors it. You're not trying to take control. You're respecting his strength by saying, I see all of you, not just the surface. And when you do that, he doesn't pull away, he leans in. He starts to crave you, not just for your body, but because you see him. Now think about the space behind his ears, maybe the most ignored, yet deeply sensitive spot on his whole body. It's quiet, soft, and shockingly intimate. There's no muscle there to tighten, no pose to keep. It's a place of trust. And when your fingertips explore that spot, or your lips gently brush it, something in him stirs, something ancient. This area, even in animals, is used for bonding, soothing, showing trust. And we humans, we're not so different. We've just been taught to ignore what we don't understand. But a woman who knows the power of that spot and uses it with care becomes someone he never forgets. When you touch him there, not roughly, but with real, honest closeness, you're telling his body, this isn't about acting or impressing. This is about being here with you. And his body hears that message. His jaw might soften. His eyes may close. His breath will shift. Because what he feels isn't just arousal, it's acceptance. You're noticing a part of him others overlook. You're saying, I see you, even the parts you didn't think anyone would notice. And that kind of attention, that's what bonds a man. That's what makes your presence stay with him. There's something deeply instinctual about these areas, the neck, the jaw, behind the ears. These are places animals only let others near when they trust them completely. They're nature's way of saying, I feel safe with you. So when a man lets you touch him there, he's giving you more than access to his body, he's giving you access to his instincts. You're saying, you're safe now, you can relax. And for a man who spends every day holding it all together, that experience is healing. And then something changes. He stops focusing on what he's doing, he starts connecting with how he's feeling. The intimacy shifts from physical motion to emotional depth. He doesn't just touch you, he feels you. And his desire, it becomes fuller, softer, deeper. That all starts not with something dramatic, but with a quiet touch along his jaw, a soft kiss behind his ear. The magic of this kind of touch is in how gentle it is. It's not about bold moves. It's about deep awareness. When your hand traces the curve of his jaw, while your eyes meet his, when your lips brush that delicate spot behind his ear, just as his breathing builds, You're not just touching skin, you're speaking to his nervous system, to his younger self, to the moments in life where he longed to be seen, but wasn't. That's the real power here. It's not just physical, it's deeply personal. And here's something not many talk about. When you touch a man emotionally through physical places like these, you change the way he experiences pleasure. He starts to connect desire not just with climax, but with safety, with recognition, with being known. And that kind of experience, it's rare. So rare it becomes unforgettable. Not in a needy way, but in a soul-deep way. In a way that makes him think, here I can just be me. And long after the night ends, long after the touches fade, what stays with him is how you made him feel. How your fingertips moved over him like he mattered. How your kiss wasn't rushed, but meaningful. How you took your time where others never looked. And because of that, you won't just be a moment in his memory, you'll be a part of him, an imprint. So don't skip these places. Don't treat them like afterthoughts. Touch his jaw like it's not just sharp but important. Kiss behind his ear like it holds secrets you want to understand. Let your touch be slow, full of care. Not because he expects it, but because he doesn't. That's how you break through. That's how you change everything, not with a trick, but by reaching the man inside the want. The power in touching his chest also comes from your intention. There's a big difference between just placing your hand on someone's chest and truly being present through your touch. When you place your hand over his heart with quiet respect, no words, no presence, you create safety. And safety is what allows a man to open up, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually. That's the part most people overlook. They rush straight to passion and skip the heart. But when a man is first touched at the heart, he feels desire with his whole being. And that kind of feeling is what makes a moment stay in his memory. Emotionally, when you rest your hand on his chest, you bring him out of his head. Many men are taught to think through everything, even intimacy. They analyze, plan, and try to perform or impress. But your warm, steady hand on his heart doesn't go to his brain, it goes to his soul. It tells him he doesn't need to act. He doesn't need to be flawless. He doesn't even have to please you at that moment. He just needs to be here with you, exactly as he is. And for a man who rarely gets to let down his walls, that kind of moment is deeply erotic. Not just physically, but on every level. This type of touch also wakes up his protective masculine side, not because he feels you need him, but because he feels seen. When a man feels like his heart is being honored, not just accessed, it brings something fierce yet gentle out of him. He doesn't just want to be with you, he wants to guard the connection you've created. He wants to protect it, grow it, keep it safe. That small, simple touch tells him, you're not just any man, you're my man. I see your heart. That kind of acknowledgement stays with him long after the night is over. It also sets up a kind of energy exchange. When your hand is on his heart, especially during sex, your body starts to align with his, your breathing matches, your emotions sync. You stop being two separate bodies and become one shared energy. This isn't imagination, it's real biological science. The heart gives off an electromagnetic field. When you touch it with purpose, your emotional energy lines up with his. That's why it feels so powerful. That's why he remembers it even if he doesn't know why. His subconscious logs it as a moment of safety, of closeness, of something real. Don't forget how vulnerable this makes him. A man who lets you touch his heart during sex is opening his most guarded part. He may not say it, and he might not even fully realize it, but in that instant, you've reached the place he normally hides, even from himself. That's sacred space, and it should be treated with care. The beautiful twist is that while the world tells men to chase physical pleasure, what actually stays with them, what ties them to someone, is emotional recognition during those physical moments. Your touch, when it's full of awareness, can give him a type of joy he's never known before. The joy of being accepted, even when he's completely exposed. That's not just sex, that's emotional intimacy. And it runs deeper than any method, position, sound, or climax. It becomes something like a spiritual stamp on his heart, one that remains even after your body's part. So yes, touch his chest, but don't do it without meaning. Don't treat it like a technique you read about. Let it say, I respect what you keep hidden. I want all of who you are, not just what you give. When he feels that, really feels it, you won't just be a lover, you'll be the one who touched him in the place he least expected, the place that holds everything. The area behind a man's ears and along his jawline is a quiet battlefield of nerves, instincts, and feelings. Most men don't even realize how sensitive it is until the right woman touches it. And when she does, something surprising happens. It doesn't just feel good, it softens him. These spots are more than just physical pleasure zones. They hold deep meaning. His jaw is where he keeps tension, pride, and the image of who he thinks he must be. Behind his ears is where his unspoken vulnerability lives. Together, these areas are like a secret emotional path, hidden under the skin. A man flexes his jaw first when he wants to look strong. He clenches it to get through stress, frustration, or emotional struggle. It's the mask he puts on when he's holding everything in. But when your fingers gently trace that line, not with pressure, but with care, you send a different message. You don't need to be tough with me. That message doesn't reach his mind, it reaches his breath, his muscles, his nervous system. It settles into his body like an exhale he didn't know he needed. That's why touching his jaw is about more than desire. It's about seeing the real him. It's an offer to let down his defenses, to stop pretending. And here's the twist. This kind of touch doesn't take away from his masculinity. It supports it. You're not stripping his power, you're holding it with gentle strength. You're tracing what he's worked hard to build and saying, I see all of you, not just the surface. And when you do that, he doesn't pull away, he leans in. He begins to want you not for what you do to him, but because of how you see him. Now think about the area behind his ears. It's often ignored, but it's one of the most sensitive places on his body. There are no muscles to hold, no poses to strike. It's soft, open, and emotionally charged. When your fingers land there or your lips brush that spot, it can stir something deep inside him. This reaction goes beyond logic. It taps into something old and instinctive. In the animal world, that spot is where trust and comfort are built. We're not so different. We've just been taught to ignore what we don't understand. But a woman who knows this and uses it with care leaves a lasting mark. When you touch him there, not with eagerness but with real closeness, it tells his body this moment isn't about showing off, it's about being real. And his body will answer in kind. His jaw might loosen, his breathing might slow, his eyes may close. Because what he feels isn't just excitement, it's trust. You're touching a part of him most people miss. And in that moment, you're saying, I see what others overlook. That's what makes him stay. That's what makes him feel connected. There's something very basic, very primal about these spots. The neck, the jaw, behind the ears. Animals only let others near them if they trust them deeply. If a man lets you touch him there, he's not just giving you his body, he's letting you into his instincts. He's saying, you're safe, I can relax now. And for someone who feels like he has to hold the world up on his own, that kind of trust is deeply healing. Then everything changes. He stops acting just for his own pleasure, he starts moving with you. The moment becomes less about pace and more about connection. His gaze lingers longer. His hands become more thoughtful. His desire feels more rooted. That's what happens when a man feels emotionally involved while being physically close. And all of that can begin not with obvious moves or flashy actions, but with a gentle touch along his jaw or behind his ear. The beauty of this kind of touch is in its softness. It's not about being bold or dramatic. It's about being tuned in. When your fingers follow the shape of his jaw while you meet his gaze, when your lips softly meet that tender spot behind his ear as his breath picks up, you're not just touching his body. You're speaking to everything inside him. You're reaching the boy who once wished someone would understand him. And that's the power here. It's not just about touch, it's about meaning. Here's the part no one talks about. When you reach a man emotionally through these quiet spots, you change how he experiences desire. He starts to connect arousal not just with physical release, but with closeness, with feeling known, with being real. And